Hello, everybody. Well, my name is John Grisham. Wow, this is a lot more people than I thought would show up on a Tuesday night. I should learn to start these things at home more often.
Hear, hear.
I can't thank you enough for coming out. Ever since Tuesdays with Maury, there has generally been this belief by my publishers in New York that it doesn't really count as an opening of a book unless you're in New York City. And so traditionally I have to go to New York, usually do a show in the morning and then do a bunch of stuff during the day, and then I go to some bookstore somewhere in New York where when the people aren't too busy spotting celebrities or trying to find a cab, they look over and they say, "Who's that guy standing on a chair?" And it's been 5 people meet in heaven, and for one more day, fabulous place. It's been 3 books since I finally had the opportunity to say I really want to be at home. And home is where my readers are, and home is where they read me long before I had any books to my name, when they were just picking up newspapers, and it only cost them 15 cents to read me instead of $24. And I really would like to just be at home. And they finally said okay, and your showing up here tonight proves that I was right about that. So thank you very much for doing that. So you're here for this new book, The Timekeeper. Tonight is the first release of it, so you're actually getting the first signed copies. If you want, I'll mark that on your book, opening night. So those of you who are waiting here will at least get something different than everybody else. And about the book itself. Well, as you see, if you've been watching any of this TV stuff, so I've been traveling around with this thing, which, by the way, I now know that you can't take one of these through security at an airport. Because in a suitcase, it actually looks very much like an explosive device. So even though this is one of the most primitive forms of time measurement in the world, do not try to fly with one of these. I found it out. But this hourglass, turn it over and it actually starts measuring. Before we're done here, this will run to its course. And in its own weird way, this hourglass is sort of at the center of this book and the idea behind this book and everything that I did for it. Because if I show this to any of you, you know exactly what it is. This is a measurement of time. And as soon as you watch the sand dripping, you're saying to yourself, oh, time is passing, the sand is dripping. And long time ago, somebody invented one of these as a way to tell time long before we had watches. But it occurred to me that there was a time even earlier than that. There was a time when we didn't keep time at all. And if you look around at animals and pretty much every other creature on the planet, they don't wear watches. They have no idea what day of the week it is. They don't know when their birthday is. And they don't know when they're getting older. And the consequence of man counting time, man is the only creature on earth that counts time. Man is the only creature on earth that chimes the hour. And as a result, man is the only creature on earth that suffers this terrible fear, which we all have, of time running out, right? And this occurred to me that, wow, we're really alone in this. And there must have been a time when we lived just to live, when we didn't count the time, when we weren't keeping track of the days or months. And then at some point, some idiot stuck a stick in the ground and saw, hey, the shadow's moving, and next thing you know, we had a sundial, and then we had a water clock, and then we had these things, and then we had calendars, and then we had digital watches, and then we had computers, and then we had today. And I started to think about, well, what would the world be like before we actually counted time? And would we have lived differently? Would we have just lived for the moment? And because all of you probably are in the same boat as me, you're in a hurry, you're trying to fit in things in time, you're trying to get stuff done, you're trying to live longer, you're worried about wasting time. Think about all the expressions we have for time. You know, kill time, waste time, pass time, lose time, watch time, time's a wasted. You know, it goes on and on forever. But once upon a time, there wasn't any. So I created this story about the first man on earth to ever measure time. And in my story, this is the guy who goes on and becomes Father Time. Now, you probably think of Father Time as a guy with a beard or, a baby under his arm at New Year's. But there's really actually no legend of Father Time. There's no story behind it. When I researched it, he's just basically a cartoon character. So I kind of created, and that's what the Timekeeper is about. That's who he is. This whole legend of Father Time, where he's the first person on earth to put a stick in the ground and begin to count the minutes. And you would think, wow, this guy's great, right? He started the whole thing. Well, in my book, because I got to write it, he gets punished. And he gets punished for eternity by the heavens because they're angry that he's trying to measure this precious gift that we have of life. And he's starting to count it and keep track of it. And so he's sent to a cave, and his punishment in this cave is that he has to sit there inside this cave and listen for eternity to all the voices of all the people who are going to come after him, who are going to say, I need more time, I want more time, give me 5 more minutes, give me another hour, give me all the things that are now going on in our world. And he lives in this cave for this eternity in this punishment until one day this angel who imprisoned him comes to him and says, let's see if you've learned your lesson. And he gives him this hourglass like I had there, and he says, go back to earth. Figure out what you didn't know about time. Find 2 people on earth, one who doesn't want enough time and one who wants too much, and teach them the meaning of time. And if you do it successfully, you'll be free and you can reach your destiny. If not, you may be stuck in the cave forever and ever and ever. And so he comes back to earth with this hourglass, and he lands right in the middle of our time, right here now in 2012. And he sees the world that has been wrought from this simple invention of water clocks and sticks in the ground, and now everybody is racing around and trying to be efficient and living twice as long as he ever did and still not satisfied with time. And he finds these 2 people, one of whom is a teenage girl who is bullied on the internet and decides she doesn't want to live anymore and she's going to kill herself, and she's the example of someone who doesn't want enough time. And he finds this old rich man who's one of the richest people on the planet, and he thinks he's so important that he actually doesn't want to die, so he's going to freeze himself through cryonics, and he's going to come back 500 years from now, and he's going to live a whole nother lifetime. And he's the person who wants too much time. And between the 2 of them, he's found these examples, and then he has to teach them their lesson. And just what they're at this sort of pinnacle moment, he takes the hourglass, and he opens the top of it, and he sticks his fingers right through, and they go all the way through the little slot, and they elongate, and they go down, and they pluck a single grain of sand just before it drops the bottom. And when he grabs that grain of sand, the whole world comes to a stop. And it's frozen except for him and these 2 people. And he uses that time to teach them this lesson. Unfortunately, once he stops time, for all the rest of the world, it starts to catch up with him. And this man who has been able to live forever begins to age very rapidly. And so he only has, ironically, a certain amount of time to get this lesson across to these 2 people about what time really is before he, you know what. I'll read you the opening page of this. I won't spend too much time here because I know you all have to get out. And I've got a good system as to how you can get out of here on time. Quickly, trust me. It's not my first rodeo. But this is how the book begins. A man sits alone in a cave. His hair is long, his beard reaches his knees. He holds his chin in the cup of his hands, and he closes his eyes. He's listening to something. Voices, endless voices. They rise from a pool in the corner of a cave. They are the voices of people on earth. They want one thing only: time. Sarah Lemon is one of those voices. A teenager in our day, she sprawls on a bed and studies a photo on her cell phone, a good-looking boy with coffee-colored hair. Tonight she will see him, tonight at 8:30. She recites it excitedly, 8:30, 8:30, and she wonders what to wear. The black jeans, the sleeveless top? No, she hates her arms, not the sleeveless. I need more time, she says. Victor Delamont is one of those voices. A wealthy man in his mid-80s, he sits in a doctor's office. His wife sits beside him. White paper covers an exam table. The doctor speaks softly. There's not much we can do, he says. Months of treatment have not worked. The tumors, the kidneys. Victor's wife tries to speak, but the words catch. As if sharing the same larynx, Victor clears his throat. What Grace wants to ask, he says, is how much time do I have left? His words and Sarah's words drift up to this faraway cave and the lonesome bearded man sitting inside it. This man is Father Time. You might think him a myth, a cartoon from a New Year's card, ancient, haggard, clutching an hourglass older than anyone on the planet. But Father Time is real, and in truth he cannot age. Beneath his unruly beard and cascading hair, signs of life, not death. His body is lean, his skin unwrinkled, immune to the very thing he lords over. Once, before he angered God, he was just another man, fated to die when his days were done. Now he has a different fate. Banished to this cave, he must listen to the world's every plea for more minutes, more hours, more years, more time. He has been here in eternity, and he has given up hope. But a clock ticks for all of us, silently, somewhere, and one is ticking even for him. Soon Father Time will be free to return to earth and finish what he started. Da-da-da! Thank you. The message of this book is simple. And pretty much every one of the books that I've written usually boils down to one message. And usually that message is something that I need to learn more than anyone else. And so I don't come to you, even though I'm standing on a chair, I do not come to you from on high, okay? I am the biggest victim and the biggest person who needs to learn the lessons of this book of anyone who will ever read it. I tend to write my books as therapy for myself. The lesson is simply this. There's a moment where this angel who sends Father Time back to earth says to him, there is a reason that God limits your days on earth. And Father Time can't imagine why it would possibly be. He says, why? And the angel says to him simply, to make each one precious. And when you think about it, and I'm sure you've all thought about it, and I certainly am thinking about it more as I get older, as I'm losing people that I love, relatives and parents and uncles and aunts are passing away, and you keep asking yourself, you know, why? Why now? Why this? Why not longer? Why can't we have more time? The simple truth of life is, if we had all the time in the world, nothing would matter. Nothing would really be important. You wouldn't have to make any decisions. You could do this, and you could do that, and you could do that. You could live here, and live here, and live there. You could marry this one, and marry this one, and this one, have a family here, have a family there. There'd be no choices whatsoever. The irony, the kind of beautiful magic of life on earth is that your days are limited. And so you have to choose. Are you going to spend it doing this, or are you going to spend it doing that? Are you going to spend it working all day, or are you going to spend it with your family? Are you going to spend it trying to make a name for yourself, or are you going to spend it trying to give something to somebody else? The choice is yours. And we have the ability, in a very short period of time, to make a very important life. Or we have the ability to lead many, many years and do nothing. You can live to 110 and have added nothing to this world, or you can be a 5-year-old boy and have changed it forever, depending on what you did. And it all depends on how you choose to live your life. So the trick isn't the time. We're infatuated with time. We all want more of that sand. The trick isn't more sand. The trick is making each one of those pieces of sand actually count. And believe me, that's a lesson that I need to learn as much as anybody in this room, I promise you. But maybe if it resonates with you, then there's something in here that's worth reading. So I do hope you like it. For those of you who have read any of my other books, probably The 5 People You Meet in Heaven is the closest one to this. It's kind of magical and sweeping. It's also just as short. I don't know what it is. It takes me 3 to 6 years to write a book, and people finish it in an hour and a half. But I think for the readers, that's a good thing anyhow. So it is short, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. As far as this book signing goes, let me try to make this easier for all of you, especially if any of you have kids or things like that. Number one, I'm not going anywhere until everybody's book is signed. I have nothing else to do except go to New York to be on The View tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, don't be so sure that that's... Let's see who the lineup is first. But that's early in the morning. So I will stay here until everybody's book is signed. If you're looking at this line and you say, you know, my number is way in the back and I've got kids, I got to get home, I got school, You can leave your book here, or as many books as you want here, and just put a note in it with the nice people here at Barnes & Noble, and I will sign it before I go, and you can come back and pick it up tomorrow or any other time, so you won't get stuck here sitting around for hours, all right? Because I know what it's like when you have something to do. If you get to the front of the line and you just decide, oh, Uncle Charlie would like one of these, you don't have to go to the back, okay? They'll have books for you here, and you can pick one up and you can pay for it on the way out. It's Shelby Township, we trust you. You know, where are you gonna go? So don't worry about it. If you want to get multiple copies, they're here. I do always ask when I come out for a book signing, two things. If there's anyone with young children, please let them come to the front of the line. You'll be glad that you did, okay? You don't want to stand behind them any more than they want to stand in front of you. And please give our young parents a break. You know, it's hard enough to be a parent today. And also, if there's any older people here who might have a hard time, you know, they're using a cane or a walker, or they're just older, turn around and let them, you know, shuffle them up to the front, because sometimes they don't want any special treatment, but they deserve it. They've been on Earth for a long time. This is a book about time, for God's sake. You know, so let's celebrate their time. Now, I need to take, Rosie, can I have that thing here? First of all, will you all say hello to one of my dearest friends in the world, and a guy I grew up with, and you hear him on the radio. He's my producer, but more importantly, he's my friend. This is Rosie from the program.
Hey, Rosie!
I want to just, okay, I want to just capture this for, is this working? Okay, wait. All right, now wave for the, wait for the internet. Ah, there's the internet, yes. Everybody's famous. Everybody's, oh, wow. All right, and now a snapshot for the internet. And we'll be done with it. All right, one more time, hands up. Hands up, oh, look at that pretty little girl. I know her. One of my 150 nieces. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for coming out. I hope that makes it easier for you. If you have any special needs or whatever, please find the nice people in Barnes & Noble. And let me personally say thank you while so many of you are assembled for two things. Number one, those of you who have helped our charities out, I know I must be the biggest pain in the butt coming around every 5 minutes and asking people, can you help us in Haiti? Can you help us in Detroit? Can you help us do this or that? And you have never failed to answer that call. And I know many of you have probably participated in the things that we do or given money to it. And I can't thank you enough. Michigan is the most generous state in the union and the most hardest hit, which is ironic, because we probably have the least amount of money to share. And everybody here has done so. And I thank you so much for the people that you've helped. And secondly, just thank you for making my books your books. You know, I said this on the radio earlier. Michigan's the kind of state where we actually root for one another.
Yep.
And you know, people come out and say, yeah, let's get Mitch's book because we want it to be a good seller. Let's watch Jeff Daniels' movie because we want it to do well. Let's go buy Kid Rock's album because we want it to do well. It's not a jealous place. It's a place where people root for one another. It's the reason I call it home. It's the reason that no matter how many times they keep saying, why don't you move to New York or LA, I said, why? You know, you don't know what I have here in Michigan. If you did, you'd be living here. You'd be moving here instead of telling me to go someplace else. And I'm so happy to be home to celebrate something that's very important to me. This is as close as I'm going to come to birthing a baby. So for me, this is kind of what it's like. It's another one of my children coming into the world. And I'm very, very proud and honored to share it with you, my friends here in Michigan. So thank you so very much. I look forward to meeting you all tonight.